You're listening to episode 132 of the D6 podcast.
I don't know anything more important in our society or in the kingdom of God than to help the church, help the family.
Discipleship is not an event, it's a way of life.
And one day it just hit me that discipleship at home was not about doing more. It was about inviting Christ into what we were already doing.
The goal of family ministry is not families sitting on the couch holding hands and singing Kumbaya. The ultimate goal is families that love God, love people, and make disciples of all peoples.
So that's why you're here. You're here to say 1 hour a week, as significant and as awesome as it is, we know that it's not enough and we want to be intentional with every hour.
You're listening to the D6 podcast. Here's your hosts, Ron Hunter and Jeremy Lee.
This is the family ministry podcast that helps you connect the church and home. Hey, Ron, what's going on in your world, brother?
Man, we are absolutely preparing for the end of the year.
Yeah. That last quarter of the year, right?
That last quarter of the year, yeah.
You've set up these goals all year long, and the ones you haven't reached, you put them into that last quarter.
We do. You know, one of the things that's completely opposite for us at Randall House than probably the ministers listening and the leaders listening is their fourth quarter is busy. I mean, summer's busy for all youth pastors and children's ministers. But I will say for us as a publisher and a resource provider, this is our regrouping quarter. We have gotten through all of our major events of the year. This is our planning stage for the next year, but we're catching our breath. Most of our vacations take place in this quarter out of the year.
Nice.
There'll be more time taken off. And it's a rest time for me, and it's a regrouping. I learned in the military that when you're in the fight, and the bugle, this is that old, I know we don't have bugles today, but I'm referencing an old side of this. When the bugle sounds for retreat, that didn't mean surrender. It means withdraw from the battle, go back, restock your ammo. You know, one person's firing more frequently than another. That means they're more likely to be out of ammo. So you got to redistribute the evenness of the ammo. You got to do maintenance on your body, feet, first aid. If you have a moment, eat something, and eat comes last. And so I gave you the priority as an infantry guy. But the next stage is to re-engage the battle. And so in all of our ministry lives, we need retreats where we pull back. We assess the situation, re-prepare ourselves to go back into the fight, to go back and re-engage families, re-engage ministry, re-engage our people. But if we don't take care of ourselves, then we're not going to be able to fight well.
Man, you brought it right there on that one. That's transferable to a lot of you guys. The question I would have for you is, when is your retreat? Not your surrender, but when is your retreat time in your calendar? And if you don't have a good answer for that, that's a great place to kind of spend some soul care time and be like, why don't I have one? And let's fix that. All right, so as we move into our topic for today, we are going to be talking, because speaking of seasons, we've just come out really of kind of the hard weather seasons, the hurricane season.
Yes, we did. Speaking of hard weather, I mean, I'll give you a great point to this. Last year, the D6 conference was in Dallas, and 10 days prior to the event, Hurricane Harvey hit Houston. We went to North Carolina this year, and 5 days before the event, Hurricane Florence hit the Carolinas badly.
Yeah.
Now we've just had Hurricane Michael just batter, the panhandle of Florida, moving on up, even in a hurricane force winds into Georgia, and now spreading rain into the river basins for the Carolinas when they've yet to get back to their original how high the river is. So people are hurting out there right now, and so it is an odd season. It's been a rough hurricane season for us.
And it's natural disaster, which brings up a whole level of questions, theological questions, like where did this come from? And
That's right.
But then just in general, just what do you do when you are serving somewhere and a natural disaster comes your way? Well, we have someone today who's lived through that as a pastor. Brian Haynes, one of D6's best buddies, is back again. And we really probed in on this, how to help families in crisis. Because we talk a lot about the crises life can bring, like death, divorce, and some of the other different things. But he led his church after a natural disaster. I have a real memory of serving on staff when a tornado came through my town, and I have memories from that I will never forget.
That's right.
And it is just a whole nother set of muscles. And so I feel like this is a wonderful arrow to put into our quiver of podcasts for a minister to kind of have someone who's experienced it to kind of train them through whenever they experience it.
That's right. You know, we need to look at different seasons of life and realize that our kids are processing them differently. You just made the comment, Jeremy, that when that tornado came through your area, you have images you'll never forget. Our kids have those same images, and they need to know how to process them. And if the body of Christ responds appropriately, then those kids will be able to process them right. You know, the seasons of the year we need to focus on: Christmas, Easter. There are certain times that we can create iconic images to embed into their memories. And so before we kind of shift entirely into Brian, let me give you one. As we're prepping for Christmas, we have an Advent guide that, you know, when the kids see the Christmas tree, when the kids see all the decorations from your city, your department stores, online, they need to have a reference point to swing back into what is this season really about. And an Advent guide will help our churches do that. And so, you know, we're offering an Advent guide for our families.
I did not know. Tell me more about the Advent guide.
Well, Jeremy, I'm sure you know that Advent is that Latin word that means coming, and we're looking for the coming.
Yeah, I knew that. I promise. I knew that. I definitely knew that.
So...
Well, come on, man.
I
just wanted to let you know that I knew that.
I figured you knew that.
It's kind of hard sitting across from a PhD genius all the time, all right?
Well, what if I told you I knew it after I read it 5 minutes ago? No, the Advent guides have been out there for a long time, and we wanted to make sure this connects our families around the Advent guide. And so when we look at the 25 days leading into Christmas, if you had something to guide your family through this, it would be very, very helpful. And so we pick up and we literally give you the way to look at those key prophecies, the coming of the Messiah, how Jesus fulfilled each prophecy, and those family activities that help reinforce the teaching of Scripture. And that's what we want to do. We don't want it just happen in church. We need it to happen every single day. And so you as a church leader can provide your families these Advent guides. And so we're selling them, you know, in bulk. And you can pick these up. These are really incredible because they're 32 pages each. And at 32 pages and how beautiful they are, they're only $3.99 in the first sliding scale, and they get down as low as $2.99. Wow. And you can order these on d6family.com/Advent.
And we're looking at it right now. It's beautifully designed.
Yeah.
Full color, gorgeous. Love it, love it, love it.
So go download a sample, see if this is where you want to be, but go ahead and get your families prepped to walk through this as a family or in the home. If you have singles or college students, they can do it in the dorm. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. It's an incredible resource, which is why we went from hurricanes to Advent without even hitting the clutch. Because, I mean, you did a beautiful transition there, but let's just be real here. I mean, we wanted to make sure they heard about this resource in time to grab it before Christmas.
We do. Because, again, an iconic image of Christmas, we're always seeing these. Are we seeing the right images?
Yes.
So that'll get us right back to the ugly images that we've been watching in the news and the Weather Channel and all the national media.
That's
and
right.
if you are in one of those affected areas, you don't need the TV, you just need your neighborhood. And I'm sorry if you're sitting in the midst of that, because I grew up in Florida. I know what this looks like. I've experienced this kind of thing firsthand.
Yeah. And Brian Haynes is going to walk us through how to help families in crisis. He's going to tell the story of how his church went through the horrible after effects of a hurricane. And I hope this helps all of us who are helping families in all types of crisis. And after the break, we'll be hearing from Brian Haynes.
I don't know what to do. Have you ever uttered those words? Perhaps a friend shared with you how their wife had left them, or classmates' parents died suddenly, Or maybe the kid that hangs out with your children just isn't himself anymore. There are a lot of hurting people all around us, and we are faced with their problems every day. I'm Eddie Moody. I've worked as a counselor, a psychologist in correctional facilities, and as a pastor. I've observed that there is a lot that regular people can do to help a family member or friend as they're going through some difficult times. I hope you will use this book, First Aid for Emotional Hurts, to answer the call to help those God places in your path.
Well, hey everybody, we're so glad to be back with my friend Brian Haynes. It's so glad to have. Well, we know you. You're part of the family.
I hope I am.
You are. You are. And so I hate to even do this, but I'm going to tell people who you are. Is that okay?
That's great. Yeah.
I have permission.
Yeah.
Well, Brian is. If you've been to D6, you've seen him. You've heard him speak. You've probably been to a breakout. But Brian serves as the lead pastor of Bay Area Church in the Houston area, and he's a pastor, preacher, ministry leader, and his passion is to see Jesus renovate people, families, and churches around the world. He's the author of 3 really important books in the family ministry arena, and national speaker on the issues of family and discipleship. And you're married. We just talked about that. Your wife taught a breakout here at D6.
She did.
Killed it.
She's awesome.
She is awesome. She's such a great leader and an asset, I know, to your ministry. And then you've got 3 daughters. We're united in this.
Yep.
The only daughter track here.
That's
I have
right.
2. You
It's
have
a
3.
Special club.
Yeah, I know. We're blessed. I mean, honestly, all this stuff about boys, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
We know girls rule, boys
That's
rule.
right.
Haley, Madeline, and Eden. How old are they now?
So Haley is a sophomore at Texas A&M, which is
Yeah.
hard to believe. And then
Oh, wow.
Madeline is 16,
Uh-huh.
and Eden is 11.
Oh,
So,
man. That's
yeah.
That's so great. So you're in the thick of it. That's awesome. Well, listen, many of the folks know listening because we've heard your story, and we probably talked about this some this time last year. But they know you from your books. But a lot of them don't realize that you moved into the senior pastor role a while back, and your church is thriving and growing. But this past year, you faced the unexpected challenge of disaster, and you had to deal with a hurricane, and you were right in the middle of that in the Houston area. You saw that, and that means that you moved from being a hub of just regular weekend ministry to really triage for your city. And I watched you do that. I watched you take your church and move it toward the crisis, the moment in your community. So we're going to focus a lot on that today. So you have learned some lessons from that, and I want you to share that. What did you learn from that experience of having your church thrust right in the middle of just disaster? What'd you learn?
Yeah, there are so many lessons. If you're not clued in, I mean, just in my immediate area, there's something like the first numbers I heard were 11,000 homes within 5 miles of our church had flooded, and it just grew from there. So I don't even know what the real number is, honestly. Here's what I learned, though, because it was one of those situations everybody's affected. I learned these things. One, that the church can mobilize so much faster than you think she can mobilize.
Yes.
And that was a big deal to me. Even looking back, it translates into how I do ministry now. But I realized that in about 43 minutes, and I have a really specific number in my head because I got a phone call to Open Door.
Wow,
43 minutes. We opened a shelter and had 150 people in there. It grew to 250 over 3 days. We had nothing, no plan, no anything. And opened the doors, got volunteers, had provisions, everything we needed to operate that shelter until everybody was reconnected with family.
Wow.
It was amazing. And my big takeaway from that was the Church of Jesus Christ, when it's focused, can mobilize quickly to get great big things done.
Yes.
And looking back, I'm super proud of our church and the churches all over the Houston area, for that matter. I mean, It was significant what happened there. So that was one of them. I think the other one is just looking back, God is way bigger and way more personal than you imagine, or that I imagine. I don't want to put that on you, but situations like we had no place for people to sleep, no air mattresses. We prayed for air mattresses, and we got 250 air mattresses in 2 hours. You know? It sounds like such a little thing, but
it's big.
It was huge.
It's personal.
It was personal. We had no food. A restaurant that was flooded brought all their food to our shelter and cooked for the entire time. And then over time, just the amount of funds that came in to take care of people when they didn't know what they were going to do, because most people didn't have any insurance. They didn't live in locations where flooding was necessarily an issue usually.
They would call that, what you went through in Houston, almost like 100 or 500 year.
I think it was saying like a 1,000-year flood.
Yeah, it's like crazy. Our city went through that, and one of the cities I used to live in went through a 100-year flood like that. And it's like caught people completely. So yeah.
So just the amount of money the church. I remember I got a phone call in the middle of the night, the first night, from a pastor friend in Dallas, and asked me how he could wire me $10,000, and I was like, bro, let me figure that out. I haven't even thought about what we need. And it turned out that churches all over the country, over 3 days, wired about $250,000.
Wow.
And we went through a process where we assessed needs quickly, and we had days, and this was done well, not just loosey-goosey.
Yes.
We had days, Sundays, where our elders were walking up to people and handing them checks for $10,000, $15,000, $7,000, just to get them going, to get their stuff together. And it was amazing. I mean, when was the last time your church handed somebody, and it wasn't from us, it was
from God's people
greater body
around the world. Yeah.
God is just so much bigger and more personal than we can imagine sometimes. And that was a big takeaway for me.
And you, in crisis, though, what I saw you do was, I saw it not just you, because I know you would say this, your team.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all moved quickly into cast vision mode.
Mm-hmm.
And you got information out. And you even told some of us at some point, hey, wait.
Mm-hmm.
Like
we don't
hang back.
Yeah.
Like you were clear with the need, and you got people in motion. Just because people can, I think, we just finished here. We're a week away from Florence. We're still feeling the effects of Florence. Right now, we've got friends who can't get back to Wilmington and other parts in North Carolina. So just for hopeful, why don't you tell us just a great story or two that you witnessed God's people making a difference right there that you saw through your body, through the church family there at Bay Area. Like, tell us a couple stories.
Two that come to mind. One is really just a normal guy named Blake, and he's a young adult, probably 21 years old, named Wesley. They got in a boat and went into a neighborhood that was completely flooded, and rescued basically 75 to 100 people, residents out of this neighborhood, brought them up to the street. And he's actually the phone call that I got that said, we have 100 people and no place for them to go. Can we open the church? So this is just an average guy saying, I'm going to get my boat and I'm going to go get these people.
Yay for people who own boats.
No kidding.
Yes.
It was just a flat bottom boat.
Yes.
And he really did. He pulled so many parents, kids, so many people, older people out of that neighborhood and got the ball rolling.
And had the courage to make a call.
He made a call. And the church mobilized. So I just think, there's a guy who just wanted to use his hands and feet to really help in a time of need. I thought it was a great story. A second one is we had one of the issues you have when you have a shelter like that is you have immediate medical care needs. People don't have their their insulin or they're got some sort of trauma that they've been through trying to get out of their house or getting through the flood or whatever, and they bring pets and dogs and all this stuff. And our church is part of the NASA community, and so I called a friend who is an astronaut, but also he's like a flight surgeon. I just said, hey, can you take this medical component of this thing and make it happen? Yeah. So he calls 4 buddies, all astronauts, all doctors. And so we have this team of astronauts running triage and then doing medical for all these people that are coming in. And one lady brings a dog, I think an English bulldog, that was pregnant. And one of the astronauts delivered the puppies in the shelter. And I just thought, like, man, this is hilarious. You know, just the very what you would normally take for granted, you know, and you just have people that are
and just helpful and all walks of life.
It was so good.
You probably have 100 of those stories.
A lot of them. But those two just stick out from the very beginning of the process. And amazing what people did. People left their homes to serve other people, and their story was, we're already flooded. Yeah. What are we going to do? And so they just started helping in the kitchen or whatever. Distribution center came after that. And
the good thing is, the good reminder for all of us is that's the local church in action. And I think people, I think sometimes downplay the role of the church now. Like, where's the church losing influence? The church is not losing influence when people step up to the plate in times of crisis in a Christ-like way. Hands and feet of Jesus. We're at our best. And I've seen it all across the country in every denomination, every group of people. I've seen Christ followers do this on a repeated basis. So let's turn it to like where people are at, because I would say the theme of your year was crisis. Like, you walked families through crisis after crisis. Every Sunday you had to step in and bring hope and focus, but your whole team just walked through it. What would you say now from what you learned about, how would you encourage a minister listening to this who's helping a family in crisis right now? What did you, from what you learned this past year?
I would say assess the need for sure. Don't impose what you think the need is, and be really careful about prescribing prayer and scripture as the first sort of antidote to whatever the pain or the suffering or the grief that someone's feeling. One of the things I think I learned really clearly was we have to meet people's tangible needs with hands-on service before we can ever meet their spiritual need. And really, it's almost hard to pull apart what is a tangible need and a spiritual need, because people we think of people in compartments, but really people, they're physical, they're spiritual, they're emotional. It's all connected, right?
Yes.
And so we just have to assess the need well, I think is very important. Like, let's understand what this person is in, why this person is in here, or why I'm connecting with this person. I think too many times we just have this tendency to say, what the Bible says, and why don't you pray, why don't you read the Bible more, when really what they really need is for someone to take care of the wound on their leg first, or to give them a meal first.
Or watch their kids while they go down to get like something taken care of with a lawyer or a doctor. Or
some sort of relief,
Like, it's more like, not what can I tell you to pray, it's more like, hey, how can I help?
Yeah.
And Jesus did it over and over again. Like, he didn't so many times with all those miracles, he's like, what do you need?
Yeah.
I didn't see.
I know. I think we lead with like tweetable advice so many times, and it's ridiculous.
Like, put this out on Facebook, and really in that moment, it does not matter.
Yeah.
And truth is truth, but still, it's how we approach it. I love that. Assessing the need is, and not imposing our own what we think is good. Okay, right. You're a pastor. You're walking through. And you've probably seen a lot of this just in your time now being a lead pastor. You've seen kids cause parental pain. I know in my seat as a pastor, I see it too, and parents just wondering, like, how do I cope with us when our kids hurt us? Can you kind of share some truths? You wrote a blog post about it not too long ago, and when the people you love the most hurt you. So can you kind of speak into that for how do we equip ministers to understand that? How do they help their parents when they bring that to them, like they've been hurt?
Yeah, that's good. I think I understand it from a pastoral perspective, but also a personal one. You know, Angela and I know what it's like, I think, to be on the mountaintop, but also be in the fetal position when it comes to parenting. And so when one of your kids who you love dearly is hurting you, you can have all kinds of reactions to that based on your personality and your family of origin, all of those kinds of stuff, that kind of stuff. But as we were walking through it, we began to look at, okay, so this is very much like our relationship with God. I mean, over the course of my life, I have spit in God's face more than once, I hate to say. And if he's the father and I'm his kid, and he's done all this, you know, to bring me into new identity and new birth and all of that, and still sometimes I spit in his face, how does he react to me in that situation? And this is how we decided to parent our kids, and also how we teach other people to parent through. And so one of the things we notice clearly about God is that he always leads with steadfast love. Now, he sits on foundation stones of righteousness and justice, but he leads with steadfast love. And it's pursuing, it's in your face, it's even when you're angry with him, when you're, you know. And so we began to apply that, like, no matter what our kid says, we're going to uphold righteous and justice, but we're going to lead with steadfast love. I think the second thing is that we need to be understanding of the fact that sometimes, even though it's painful, God lets his kids wander or waller around in their folly.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And so learning to
not automatically rescue?
Not automatically rescue. Not fix it. That's where I want to go, is I just want to instantly.
Because there's a difference between protect and fix, isn't there?
And certainly with your little kids, you're not going to let them wander in folly, but when they're 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, and
some of that practice doesn't come in there because, you know, I'm in the middle school. Some of that starts in 7th, 5th, 6th, 7th, of not always fixing it. Anything else there? Steadfast love. Don't rush to fix it.
And the other thing we thought of a lot, and we share a lot, is the parable of the prodigal son. And it's really, I mean, if you've read it, you know it's more about the father than it is about the son.
Yeah.
And the image in my mind, even as this son is squandering his father's wealth and all that, is when the son decides, okay, I've had enough. I've hit my bottom. I want to come home. As Jesus is telling the story, he describes the father as being the image of my mind is like almost on a front porch, but being there and watching, like he's intentionally looking for his son to come home. And for us as parents, when we're hurt, we can't really recluse from our kids. We don't want to grow bitter toward our kid that's hurting us, but instead we want to be that father, that parent, that mother who is eyes on them, not in a helicopter parent sort of way, but in a hopeful way, knowing that I've been praying, I've been seeking God. Yes, this has been painful. Yes, they've squandered things, whatever. But I can't wait until they return.
Oh, that's
right? Yes. And so that picture's been a very meaningful one to us.
That is so good. Okay, we've got a few more minutes, and we're gonna. This is not on the question sheet,
right.
So let's talk a few. Just our last question. We're both lead pastors, and I think sometimes. I think being lead pastor is very humbling, isn't it?
It
We're
is
just
very
learning. So for all the children's pastors, all the student pastors out there, all the please be patient with your
Right,
pastor.
please.
They need so. But what have you learned now? Because you've been in this seat for several years now. What have you learned now that you could help other senior pastors know what their next gen staff needs, their family members? What have you learned? What do they need from us?
Yeah, that
could be a whole nother podcast, but
yeah.
let's end with that. What do they
Yeah.
need from us as lead pastors? What can we give them?
Well, I think the first thing is trust, and the lack of micromanagement. I don't think that we need to be. I think we need to trust them and not be on them, pressing. But the flip side of that is they need to be able to trust us, and to build that trust for what they're trying to do, we really have to champion, I think, discipleship from that lead role in a way that lights their fire. Not that I have to micromanage what they're doing. I don't have to. I don't have to provide solutions for them, but I do have to like pave the way, open this doorway. I think of it like this: it's almost like a coach on the sidelines that's planning all the plays and got everything sort of visioned in his mind. But that next gen team needs to be able to carry the ball, right? And so I just want to make a way for them to do that, support them, encourage them when they haven't been through the family stuff yet. Some of them of mine at least are young, and they haven't been through some of the parenting things that they're forced to deal with. It's really just sitting with them and helping them understand and navigate that, not being unwilling to reach and help them through that stuff. I think the trust issue is key, though. You and I both know, because we've been at these conferences so long, how many next-gen staffers have we talked to who have said, how do I get my senior pastor to think about connecting church and home for discipleship?
Yep.
For the senior pastor, and they shouldn't be asking that question.
They don't. There's no reason.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the greatest gift that we can give them as senior pastors. If you are a senior pastor, listen to this. If you're not a senior pastor and they're listening to this, they need to be praying intentionally. I think sometimes complaints get nowhere. They need to begin praying for the heart of their senior leader. Yep. But the flip side of that is, if you're a senior leader, man, just thinking about it and asking questions about it. And I've found showing up randomly in environments, not to critique, but to high five.
Yeah. So
goes
good.
so far, so far. I'm hopeful for this next generation of family ministry leaders, because there's a lot of us who were in family ministry that are now in the seats.
Yep, that's right.
And so we've got a chance to work together. So this has been gold, Brian. Gold. Tell people just the best way for them to get in touch with you.
Sure.
I know you're active on Instagram. What are the best ways for them to
Yeah, I mean, I think all the normal Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you can find me there. I have a blog called brianhaynes.org, or you can check out our church website. It's just bayarea.church.
Great. Thank you so much for being with us
Yeah,
today.
thanks.
Awesome.
Our team at D6 have put together top family ministry resources that will help you do family ministry well. We call it D6 Plus, an online monthly subscription for every age and stage of ministry. Adult, youth, and children's leaders can now enjoy ready-to-use family ministry resources and training from the team at D6 Family. What can you expect with D6 Plus? First, you get the D6 conference year-round, with a media library filled with main stage talks and breakout sessions from every year of the D6 conference. D6 Plus also provides teacher training videos and emails to help your team excel at family ministry. D6 Plus includes a toolbox of one-page talking sheets to guide families through pain points. D6 Plus also offers sermons and lesson outlines, countdown videos, and creative graphics. In addition to the resources and training provided online, D6 Plus members receive other perks: family ministry books sent directly to you throughout the year for free, plus special VIP benefits at the D6 conference. D6 Plus, family ministry resources and training to help you and the parents in your church have an excellent family ministry.
So our thanks go to Brian Haynes, and by the way, Michael Bain, who stepped in for that interview. Thank you, Michael Bain, as well. Hey, we want to kind of chat about something else that happened at D6 Conference. Last episode, we kind of gave some highlights, mine and yours, from the conference.
Yeah.
But there's something else that happened that we haven't got a chance to tell people about. But if they are binge listeners to the D6 podcast, they've heard us use that term D6 Leader Network over and over and over again. But you guys kind of gave it a new face and kind of told a whole bunch of people about it at the conference. And you call it now D6 Plus, which I love how nice and simple that is.
It is.
Tell us about D6 Plus.
Because the idea is there's so many people out here that have adopted family ministry. They're on board with the philosophy, the direction. They just need the extra helps along the way. They need a little more. So this is where Plus comes in. One of the number one questions coming out of the D6 conference was either I missed it, how do I get a copy of all those videos and the MP3s, the audio recordings, or they were there, and when you're offering, 70 different breakout options, you can only attend 5 or 6 of them, you're going, how do I get all the others? Well, D6 Plus is your answer.
Yeah.
And so D6 Plus offers the content from the conference, and not only this conference, but from the past 10 years. We have about 95%. The only ones that you won't get are the ones where publishers have tied up the content connected to intellectual property. And we can almost name those on one or two hands that are not present in this. Not only that, you have what is the toolbox. That's probably my favorite part of this. Jeremy, you've addressed this so well in the past when parents bump up against pain points in their families. Their kids are hitting topics that they don't know how to address. They can easily go to this resource. And as a ministry leader, you can, number one, either send it to them as they bump into it or print out copies and put them into your resource area in your church. And then we have countdown videos and we have teaching points where we have incredible outlines. There's so much to this. You just need to go to d6plus.com and explore it because it is the extra add-on that you need in your ministry to help parents. We have teacher training videos. One a month that you can send out to teachers of teenagers, teachers of children, teachers of adults, and they're specifically aligned. And so for one price, you get all 3 channels, adults, teens, and children. And when we originally launched it, we had you pay for each channel. And if you bought 2, then you got the 3rd. Well, we decided that everybody needed it, and we just streamlined it. And because it's been just wildly popular when we did that, we just feel like that one price covering everything works.
And I remember when you guys were discussing all of this, one of the things that was a catalyst was well, I remember 2 things. Number one, there wasn't a way for somebody to kind of identify as a D6 church. We want to kind of like be in a community with you guys.
Yeah.
And you created, through D6 Plus, you created that. And then secondly, just real practically and logistically, I said last episode, I'm a conference geek. And the typical thing at a conference is you get to buy the recordings of what you missed.
That's right.
That way I could miss sessions and go out to dinner and be okay.
Yes.
Well, really, the truth is people would come in and say, give us a couple $100, we'll give you all the recordings.
Yeah.
And what you guys have done is, in about a very similar price range, you let people spread it out monthly, and you give them that recordings from the past and a whole bunch more. It's
bunch more, yeah.
D6 Plus, you kind of took that idea and you put it on steroids.
Yes. I mean, imagine being able to play a key video for your teenagers or for your entire church, and you can just stream that in and play that on a midweek service or a Sunday night service or a special gathering that you want to have a guest speaker in that you can't afford. I mean, imagine, somebody that has cost us $6,000 or $8,000 or $2,000 or whatever, and you get them for, I hate to even say it, $39 a month. I mean, that's literally what it is. And you can bring in all these speakers into your church or to your team to train them.
And then there's the fun parts, like you guys randomly send books to your members that they aren't expecting, and then if they come to the conference, they get all these little perks that you guys give to them.
We do. We have a special lounge that they get free drinks and coffee, and we actually schedule speakers to be in there so they can just have fun talking to them. And let me tease this a little bit further. I've already got a book earmarked to go out this month. Meaning if anybody gets in now, it's supposed to go out the end of this month to all of our members. I won't even tell them which one, but it's a brand new release, so they want to get in on it.
That is incredible. D6 Plus, you guys can find out about it at d6family.com. And thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for being a part of this podcast. It was a good episode. I hope you guys have a great week of ministry.
You've been listening to the D6 Podcast. You can learn more about D6 at d6family.com.